So first off, can you just introduce yourself and tell me a little bit more about what you do?
Sure. I'm a program manager with MERP Systems. We're a federal contractor. We work with Microsoft to do bespoke systems for the federal government, mostly business application software. And our expertise is around a product called Dynamics 365. So Microsoft provides the licensing and we do the work, basically. So when government departments have some sort of need for a type of business software, they'll put out a RFP. We'll respond to the RFP. And we're one of not a great number of federal contractors that have this expertise. Do our developments in a low-code environment. We try to keep it to a minimum. So we're leveraging Microsoft's technology, doing a lot of things that are more along the line of customization and configuration as opposed to a lot of heavy programming, right? That's what I do. And I think our use case for your product is kind of interesting based on what we do. We're mainly creating how-to videos for the software. And we're new to this. And so we investigated a lot of different ways of going about this. We started off with just, hitting the record button in PowerPoint while somebody actually, worked the mouse and the keyboards and explained what they were doing, much like a lot of people do it, right? And nobody likes hearing their own voice. We looked around and thought about other ways of doing it based on the fact that there's now a lot of AI generated voices that you could use to change things. And then we investigated a number of different companies, different products that were out there, and yours was one of them. And we were comfortable with your product. So after evaluating several companies, we like what you do and how you do it. And one of the selling points was the API, which other people say they offer, but weren't able to kind of back it up with a lot of information. And I can't say that your information was really comprehensive, but your team has proven itself. I've been working with Mark Gawaith. I'm not sure that I pronounce his surname right, but he's a good guy and he's been very responsive to us. I don't know that we're ever going to be a huge customer, but we've got some interesting applications, so there's no telling where we're going to take this. But we started off basically creating videos for our UAT testing. So we have a very structured approach to how we do project management in our software developments for our customers. And we heavily rely on the customer to approve of what they see and how they see the product working. And so what we've done is we've worked in the creation of videos, at least on my projects. But the creation of videos, how-to videos for our software during our week-long UAT testing periods that we do with our customer. So we'll typically start off with a handover presentation on Monday, and I'll demonstrate the software, and this is classically how we've done it. And we'll hand over a test plan that the customer is supposed to follow to execute the activities that the software is supposed to carry out, and then they verify that it works, it doesn't work, what was wrong with it, and we work through that week during the sprint to correct the issues. Or if changes are needed, then we negotiate what changes need to be done and so forth. So we started off by adding the video to our test cases, and we would turn that over to the testing team. So they would get a video of someone performing the activity and explaining it, right? and then they would get a written test case that they had to execute.
Got it. So the video was almost a supplement to the written rules to help the client execute on the testing.
Exactly. It's a guide. When you see a software test on paper, because often we're working with the ultimate users. They're not professional quality assurance software testing people. They're people that work in government that were assigned to the project, and interested parties that were assigned to help out, right? And to say, yes, this works the way you explained it should work, or no, it doesn't, right? So, we wanted to communicate well to them what the purpose of it is and what the mechanics of actually executing the steps that are involved in that particular functionality that was going to be released.
Yeah.
To make it make sense, in addition to them ticking off the test case. Yes, step 1 works, step 2 works, step 3 works. And that has evolved quite a bit over time. And this is why I think we've got a very interesting, we're not taking like some narrative and pumping it into your AI generator and having it pop out, the stock video clips and screenshots and efficiently creating a video on the other side. We've done that. We like that. That's fun to play with, but it's not our purpose. Our purpose is very direct. We want to hand something over. We want to create it in a short period of time because we don't have a lot of time to work on it because we're not videographers either.
You're not in. Right.
We have a purpose. We are trying to get our software developed, and we want our user to test the software properly, give us the feedback that they can give us so that we hand over a quality product to them. And so, like, you take an example, we work on typically a 3-week sprint timeline where the developers are developing throughout the whole period. They're handing over the pieces that have been developed to our quality assurance team who are going to test it and make sure that we think it works the way it's supposed to work and that we catch anything before we give it to the customer to do their user acceptance testing, right? So on a 3-week sprint timeline, sometime in the beginning of the second week, we have to have started on writing our test cases that we're going to hand over to the customer in the last week of the sprint. And so we're putting this effort into writing very good test cases, very thorough test cases that explain and screenshot what the user is supposed to do, so that by the following Monday, all of the functionality that we're going to hand over to the customer to test is ready, and they can go in and test it. And so we're already doing that effort.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're trying to do is also in the same timeline, create a video. So like we've got this additional effort that needs to be very efficient.
Right.
Because the more important thing is that the software works, right?
So is it the QA team that's primarily using the product right now?
Correct. It's the QA team that is actually generating the videos.
Right.
And so we were doing this, as I mentioned, with PowerPoint. We tried other like recording type of stuff, and it was pretty crude. So we've come a long way using your product, and then we used your product using the manual piece.
Yeah.
Right now, I just got approval from my management to go forward with the API, and I sent a note to Mark to ask him to update the API contract so that we can start using that on a regular basis. And so I'll bring you to the point in our journey where we are now. We actually we created our own tool called the MERP DevOps Accelerator tool. And one of its purposes is to help with the QA. There's other parts to this where we're incorporating other AI for different stages in the project.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically as relates to Pictory is kind of like on the tail, not the tail end of this, but it comes in during the development phase of the project. And we intend to use it to actually provide training material and also embed the videos into the product that we're developing for the customer itself. We're already putting out the effort to test the product. All right. So if you think of the mechanics of creating a how-to video, you've got to perform the action on screen.
Sure.
And capture that.
Yeah.
And explain it and explain it in good, proper English. Did I say that nicely in English? Was that proper English? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. No. You have to explain it. I'm tracking.
I've become very language conscious anymore because, this is something that like the customer catches on the back end. But what we've done in our tool is we use Azure DevOps. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but if you know Jira, as a project management tool, Azure DevOps has a lot of similarities, but Azure DevOps actually has a test case module or a test suites module. And we use that module to actually write our test cases. And it has the capability of recording test cases. So instead of you sitting down and off the top of your head, writing steps saying, okay, number 1, log into the computer. Number 2, click this to go to the main screen, and then click that, and then type this here, open up the lookup and select this from the list and all of this sort of thing.
Right.
What happens is you actually go out and perform the activity and it records what you're doing.
Right.
It'll create, and it'll come out very machine-like. What it writes out is very machine-like.
Yeah.
It'll actually have very like cryptic sort of things, and it'll screenshot each stage of the activity that you're doing. So now I've got an image of everything that occurs and everything that the user needs to do to actually perform the activity. So if it comes
that is being ingested into the API is these screenshots and then each one of these steps, and then it's automatically combining it for you.
You took it to the end. A lot happens before it gets there because now we need to provide narrative on a step-by-step basis. And that is one of our challenges. And we're trying to do that with Azure AI. So we're working on drawing out those steps to do that. But ultimately, we've been successful with your team that we can write one of these test cases and add in the narrative, which we were doing already, right? So for us, the work effort is the same. We were already writing the test cases. Now we've put a lot of pressure on the team to write them really well and to be very thorough, because what happens at the end of it is we can automatically ingest that into our tool and send the commands to the Pictory API and generate the video automatically.
Got it.
And it doesn't look half bad. It's screenshots going one to the next, and it's an explanation, but it looked pretty good. And so, we're just one project team of many at our company, and we're fielding a lot of projects. So this is important to us from an efficiency standpoint and from a quality standpoint. So we've invested a lot of time into this, a lot of personal time, a lot of our team's time to make this happen. And I think we're at a point where we've just kicked off a project and we're going to utilize this on the upcoming sprints. We're still in a discovery phase, and we've got other parts of our tool that we're testing for discovery, which is a different story. But it's part of an overarching tool that would help a company that does this type of development
Yeah.
work this into their whole project life cycle. And so it doesn't really just end at doing the testing, because if you think about it, if we've written this properly and the tests work 100% the way we expect them to, well, now we have documentation that we can hand over for user adoption if we do this properly. That,
Right.
you know, this system is supposed to, it's all tracking back to the user stories and then coming out the other end as user documentation. And
Right.
so we're also looking at when you hit the help button within the system, that like if you're sitting on a specific screen, now we've created this video, we can create a context sensitive video. You know, you're sitting in this form and this is how you're supposed to fill out this form, and you hit the help thing, there's a video there that says, okay, if you're entering a piece of equipment into inventory, this is how the person enters that new piece of equipment into inventory.
Almost a personalized, like guided experience.
Well, right. And the cool thing about it is, like within D365 Power Apps, which is our development environment, it'll have like a little thumbnail video. You can actually run it as a thumbnail video in the upper corner of the screen.
Yeah.
And you actually have the application sitting there in the left-hand part of the window, and you can sit there and play and stop from within the application as you go, which is pretty useful.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's our whole story. That's how, you know, I don't know what sort of business this will create in the end for you. But, you know, like if I'm doing, if I'm responsible for 2 or 3 projects under my program, and then on a yearly basis, each of those projects is going to create anywhere from 30 to 50 videos that are going to get embedded into the system, you know, that's something. And then there's a number of other program managers running equally as many number of projects going on. So, you know, it could grow. I don't know. We'll see how successful we are on this pilot project, and you know, hope that it bears fruit for us and it makes us more efficient. And our customers are. We got good feedback from our customer on the videos that we've provided so far. They've found it useful.
That was going to be one of the follow-up questions.
So that they actually went and they bought your product as well.
Okay.
For their own purposes. And so we operate with a number of government agencies. So Social Security, we have both defense and civilian sides of the government that we represent.
Funny, I actually used to work at the Pentagon for a year as a consultant.
Okay. So, you know, like some of this may be sensitive because of security purposes.
Sure.
And so this is something that we'll probably have to be mindful of in terms of doing this for certain clients.
Yeah.
There may be exception taken to doing this. And so we're like being careful to do our screenshotting on environments that are under our control, that are development environments that are not on the government systems or showing any kind of personal identifying information or, you know what I mean? So like we've thought about this, we don't want to create problems for ourselves with our customer, obviously.
Yeah.
So they have those concerns. So we have to be mindful of that. But, you know, when they saw what we did for this project, they said, hey, we like this. We want to get this as well so that we could do training material for our own purposes. So, you know, we thought, nice. They said, how to do this? We said, well, these are our guys. And that's how I ended up signing up for the program.
Yeah, it's a good data point, and clearly a good data point that something is working, which is great.
No, Now they'll never do like the API stuff like what we're looking at. And, you know, we got the Teams version of your product, and, you know, I don't know how much we'll use it for other purposes, but obviously we can see the value of it. But really, to really get a lot of juice out of the tool, you got to have somebody that becomes pretty good at it, that kind of understands marketing and has an eye for it. You know, like our QA people, we're not, it's not our thing, right? So we're just trying to be efficient about communicating certain information.
So you're using more of the API side, less of the team side.
Well, that's where I see it going, to tell you the truth, because, you know, we're going to keep it. We're going to keep the team side of it because obviously it has a value, and maybe for actually creating more of the documentation that we deliver at deployment time or later in the project before we close it out, we could do something more professional, more holistic. So like the API thing is more of a choppy, you know, you're doing this, you're doing very specific things to whatever is being developed.